Of course, Helldivers 2 has explosions, goofy physics, amazing teamwork, and most importantly, democracy. But it has something that you probably haven't noticed, or at least not anymore if you're a seasoned diver. Something so powerful it sways how you think and how you act by extension. Helldivers has unwritten rules and social norms that affect you in deep ways that you don't even consciously think about. But they're happening all the time, and what's really cool is they're a reflection of real life too. So what I noticed with Helldivers 2 is there's actually just a couple of different types of norms out there that you see. Norms that are more relational, kind of like how you interact with other people. Instructional norms, norms that kind of tell you what to do, how to act. Acceptance norms, things that, hey, are just plain outright kind of weird, but in Helldivers 2's context, yeah, you're kind of actually supposed to do it. And what happens if you make a mistake and don't know the norms and then cause an issue on accident? What I found really interesting was the relational norms and how much they kind of play in to just how well the team can work or not work, depending on if they're followed. It might seem like a small thing when you do an emote and someone does an emote back, but think about it. That's almost as something so simple like a handshake, but yet just that powerful. You're recognizing the other person behind the screen when you give them that good old Helldiver salute, or maybe you go into a hug or a handshake. Remember, kids, always hug your homies. See, something just as small as that too, even if you start off the match doing a funny little goofy emote, that instantly bonds you to that person in kind of a parasocial way, but also in a way that builds teams. At the same time, if you leave someone hanging, could have just the opposite effect. Another kind of relational norm too that's almost a little bit more of a symptom of the team building is waiting for the last person before extracting. Because in Helldivers 2, you can call in an extraction. You pull off a great defense, maybe you have a teammate that's out there, or maybe they perished and you gotta drop them back in. But then even after the Pelican lands, 90% of the time, people all wait around until everyone's together, and then maybe do some, once again, goofy emotes, or drop in a couple of last minute stratagems for some fireworks on the way out. You're always waiting on the last Helldiver before everyone hops on and then skedaddles out of there. And see, something like that, you might not even have thought about it, but you probably have done that either at work or at school, where you're waiting for all your homies to get together, and then you all head out together. Or if you're at work, maybe there's a couple coworkers in office, it's the end of the day, everyone's kind of packing up. Maybe you are someone who does just get right out of there. But more often than not, I found that people usually stick together and then head out together. Or maybe find their friend in another department and hang out with them. But it's these small little relationship norms that actually help really pull teams together, both in the game and in real life. So now I have a little bit about how you can build relationship with just some non-verbal cues and some of just basic norms, both in game and in real life. What about norms that kind of tell you what to do in a specific way, or how to do something, or when to do something? More so than just building relationships, but kind of almost like on-the-job training. But in Helldivers, the on-the-job training is a little bit more exciting. So your piece of non-verbal communication, or at least if you're playing a game and no one has any sort of microphone on, one of the norms is using a map marker or calling out targets or elites or patrols, or secret locations like bunkers that you need two people to come together on. It's a very subtle thing, but it can make all the difference in the team gameplay. And in real life, the equivalent basically would be everyone has kind of a standard operating procedure, good communications happening, even though it might be simple communication. Things play out a little bit easier. You can almost direct or lead a team in Helldivers 2 without having to have a microphone. You can just point at things and then everyone knows, oh, cool, yep, I'll hit that elite. Oh, cool, I'll go to that bunker. But now you might be saying to yourself, wait, Matt, technically that's kind of verbal because, your character says something. Okay, cool, I'll give you that. But this next norm is actually so powerful, people make YouTube videos on it. And this norm is meta loadouts. So the big thing about meta loadouts is it can really affect your decision making and choosing what your loadout is. Now granted, the meta loadout is the meta loadout because it works really well. But that's also kind of how norms work. The majority of society has found something that kind of works for everybody, works pretty well for everybody, so that everyone does it, and then that's like the meta for society. Now bringing it back down to Helldivers, a lot of people test it, a lot of people, hey, you know, use this kind of weapon against this kind of enemy. You know, the new meta for YZ is, you know, bringing down this stratagem. But just like in real life, the meta is kind of boring. One, it may not be something you necessarily want to play. Maybe you don't even like the play style that the meta is, or you want to just do what I do and bring a bunch of gas, or bring a bunch of flames, or oops, all lasers. Because for you, it might actually work better. I do better just building my own thing. And the same thing is very much true in society. You know, sometimes you're not meant to do what everyone else is doing. Maybe you're meant to do something that's more specifically for you. Yeah, just think about that for a little bit. Now, this kind of instructional norm is one that frustrates almost every single Helldiver that you'll see on YouTube. And that's the galactic map and how the DSS is used. Somehow, some way, we're able to organize tens of thousands of people, or hundreds of thousands at some point, to all go to a single planet. But how do we do that when no one can actually really communicate? And yeah, you know, there's some discords and there's some other things in here, but what exactly is it that brought us all there? It was very simple, a major order. That kind of nonverbal communication creates a norm, and the norm is everybody goes in the major order, complete the major order, and go for that. Now, even within the major orders, those have norms too. Like when we're faced with, hey, do we donate the kids or do we get a new stratagem? And then we end up donating the kids. And some of the previous stuff that's been like that. But at the same time, the really frustrating part of the norm is you have to choose between planet A and planet B. But in reality, if you kind of step back from the norm that Joel is trying to place in there, the game master, so to speak, and go for planet C, then you actually stop both the planets from being taken. But since everyone follows the norm of, okay, I gotta choose between planet A and planet B, and I like planet A better, or hey, the DSS is at planet A, so everyone's gonna go to planet A, and then we lose planet B. So that's a norm. Not all norms are functional, just like in real life, and it's kind of dysfunctional here in the game. So sometimes you gotta try to break away from the norm. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, how do we come to just accept these kinds of things? Well, in general, society just tends to follow norms, and you tend to follow society, and so therefore you follow norms. But what I also noticed too is there's norms about accepting certain things. In life, it's what does society deem as acceptable, but in the game, it's like what is considered acceptable in the game that might be just kind of weird anywhere else in the other game. And I like to bring fratricide, blue on blue, blue falcons for those who are in the military. Or at least unintentional blue falcons, and those are the people who also like me. Maybe they bring some mines, and a bunch of your own team dies to your own mines. Or someone pulls out a 380mm stratagem, and they get knocked over by a charger, and they drop the stratagem, and then it wipes the entire team. But in the other video game where you probably get really upset with that person, it's almost kind of expected in Helldivers too. Like the norm is there's going to be accidental team killing. Sometimes not accidental, but for the most part it's going to be like, oops, I dropped this 500 kilogram bomb a little too close, and oops, you were kind of on the objective. My bad, bro. And then guess what? You go back to the relational emotes, you know, give the dude a little emote of a high five or a hug or a dance or something, or a shake hand, and then, you know, you keep on going. So kind of going back to that, you know, the relational piece helps bring it all together. But, you know, it kind of gets you thinking, like, how does this relate to real life? Well, what does society put into your life that said it's acceptable, but you really don't like it? Social media is a great example of a norm that's kind of been deemed acceptable. Mediocrity has been deemed acceptable by society. So what does society normalize in your life that now that you've kind of maybe taken a second, you're like, why do I actually do this? Well, we'll get to that later. Let's go on to something kind of funny in a bit, and that's how people react to when you violate some of the norms. Now, in real life, you know, if an American goes to Japan and is talking on a cell phone in a train, violating the norm, okay, you know, they're going to get some weird looks. Now, in the game, violate the norm, a couple other things can happen. You could get team killed purposefully. You can be kicked from the game. A norm I didn't realize myself personally was if there's a personal order, say for example, you know, destroy X amount of stalkers, and you see a guy standing in front of a stalker spawner, and you're like, oh, maybe he doesn't have grenades, and you toss a grenade into the stalker spawner, and he gets mad at you, well, then he's going to turn around and, you know, get you. So I violated a norm that I didn't really know about, and there were some consequences to it. Interesting kind of game. Hey, you know, it happens. Another one is when I once again run all mines because I love doing so. It usually tends to upset a lot of the team, but you know what? Kill count don't lie, and I usually beat them out anyway. You might be thinking to yourself, so what? Cool. Okay, we play this game, we got some norm, society, whatever. You know, so what? Well, what if you actually applied some of this information for growth? So you might be saying to yourself, okay, well, how do we do that? Well, it's very simple, but not easy. Step 1, awareness. Hey, why do you do what you do? Even look at the game. Why do you run certain weapons? Do you have fun with all of them? Maybe you do have fun with the weapons or stratagems. But why? In real life, hey, why are you doing X, Y, Z? For me, it was, why did I decide to get a master's degree? And here I am on YouTube, and my actual main job has nothing to do with the master's degree I got. Well, society said. So I learned from that, and I grew, and you can too. But it starts with awareness. Why do you do what you do? Next step is, we'll analyze. Okay, well, do you like what you're doing? But what do you analyze it against? Well, what are your goals and values? Is what you're doing aligning with your goals and your values? And if not, you might need to change it. If it is, hey, you keep going. But at least now you're a little bit more aware and you actually made the conscious decision to do so. You didn't let a societal norm take the wheel from you. That's kind of step 3, which is decide to change. Actually break out of the societal mold. Take the steering wheel into your own hands and be responsible for your own life. And kind of tying it back to the game, it was just like me. Instead of trying to run autocannon or, quasar cannon when fighting bots, I just said, hey, what if I just brought a whole bunch of rocket launchers? Oh, hey, what if I brought, once again, a whole lot of mines? And then last step is make it the right decision. Hey, I came to a bot world and I played Oops All Gas. I played Gas Diver. And I made the right decision and got, once again, another really high kill count and also had fun doing so. So I was aware of what I was doing, made the analysis, made the decision, and then made it the right decision, decided to stick with it and grow from there. You can do the same thing. Why do you do what you do? Is it aligned with what you actually want out of life and how you want to live? If not, decide to change. If so, decide to keep going and make it the right decision. And now you can do all this too, because Helldivers 2 shows you how powerful society's unwritten rules can be just through this game and how much they can affect you. If you notice some things that you do that may need to break away from the norm, maybe this video right here can help you with the self-awareness piece and breaking free from the norm. Let me know in the comments a time that you did something new for the first time in Helldivers 2, and even in life. With that being said, be impactful, be kind, be excited, and I'll see you diving into your new growth and success soon. See you next time.